Hi, I'm Nanny, and I have a sickness. I see patterns everywhere, and I want the world to be more colorful. Disneybounding. This is the second episode of my Disneybounding series, and today's victim is Snow White. Just came back from Brazil. I'm sick and totally jet lagged. I generally make my own patterns, but this time I will try something new. I'll use the MCall, the archive collection from 1953, and I will be doing this look here. Well, at least a variation from. Let's start this, shall we? As I am using this simple pattern, there is nothing much that I would change about it. Maybe just the skirt, because the original one has a circle skirt, and I think this will be a little bit too much fabric for what I'm going for, so I will change it to pocket pleats. I want to have all of the patterns together. The skirt will have the dwarfs and some other details. The blue part will have all of the forest animals, and last but not least, some details in red, with apples, of course. All of the patterns that I created for this dress were using CorelDRAW. I know most illustrators and graphic designers do not like CorelDRAW, but it's the only tool that I can use, and I can say I am very happy with it. Do not try to convince me to change to Illustrator, because it will not happen. Maybe one day, but not today. And it will be a seamless design. That means that all of these squares, when I put them next to each other, they will create a pattern without borders. And this is what we are going for. All of these patterns that I am creating right now have some sort of random disposition of the elements, but don't be fooled, there is a lot of math involved. The fabric I struggled the most to design was the yellow one due to the uneven number of dwarfs. First I was trying to arrange them to look like stripes, but it didn't work out because it was ugly, plain ugly. Although I planned on adding the evil queen and the huntsman to the pattern, I decided to keep only the dwarfs and their tools. Not to make it so busy, because we are using 3 different patterns at the same time. So it is as busy as it can get. This calculated randomness is both annoying and awesome at the same time. After a very long wait, all of the fabrics came to me and they were perfect. The colors were on point, there were no ghost lines between the blocks of pattern, and also the size of the elements turned out pretty great. The sewing pattern is pretty easy to use. There are no secrets to it. Even rebels like me that never look at the instructions can sew this without a problem. The only thing I suggest is that you make adjustments before permanently sewing the pieces together. I do that by wearing them inside out in front of a mirror and pinning what I wish to change. And there is always something to change. In my case, I have too much boob. That means that I always have to take the waistline in, being either through the darts or the size of the garment. Don't forget to press the seam allowances, otherwise things will get wonky. Here I'm using an awl punch to mark where the halters will go. You can find those markings on the sewing pattern. Everything pinned, right sides facing. Let's sew this. I always add linings to my dresses because I hate facings, and here I'm using a cotton poplin. I added a little bit of interfacing to the neckline after I sewed it. Let's decide the skirt, because I don't know what to do. I wanted maybe a circle skirt, but with the disposition of the dwarfs on the fabric, I don't think it's gonna look good, so I was thinking maybe with some pocket pleats. Let's see what the fabric tells me. Here again, a lot of math. Calculate the waistline, mark where the front darts are, decide the size of the pleat. I went with 16 centimeters, which means I have to add 32 centimeters to the waistline. Mark the center fold, done. Repeat same for the back, although I heard that one should never do pocket pleats on the back side, but I don't care, it's my dress and my rules. I will post a nice tutorial for pleats on my description in case you really want to learn something, because I know I'm a terrible teacher. And then of course adding some pockets, because dresses without pockets are just useless. And now some fun facts about Snow White. You see, in Germany they don't have this weird custom of not scaring or traumatizing young children as other nations do. You and me probably know the Disney version of the story. The evil queen is jealous of Snow White's beauty. She orders the huntsman to kill her and bring her heart back. As a proof, Snow White runs away. The huntsman does not kill her out of mercy. Snow White then invades and takes over the house of those poor dwarves and proceeds to live with him until that old hag gives her a poison apple to eat. She dies or goes into a comatose state until the nameless prince sees her, kisses her while she is roofied and cannot consent to anything, and they get married and live happily ever after. And the queen is then squished to death by a very large boulder. Steve the poor man had another version of this sweet love story. The huntsman has to bring the queen Snow White's heart and liver because she wants to eat them. Yep. You heard that right. Cannibalism. Snow White only died after she ate the poisoned side of the apple. It was green in one side and red on the other, and the hag told her to eat the red one because it tasted better. She then choked on that piece of fruit and died. While the dwarves were carrying her glass casket, the nameless prince sees her and offers to take her to his castle for some really shady business. The dwarves don't really care and let her go. That dumb piece of royalty then lets the casket fall down and break, thus waking Snow White, who threw up the piece of poisoned apple lodged in her throat. They fall in love as a natural reaction of this shenanigans and get married, throwing a huge party. And the hag? Well, she is then sentenced to dance, using a very large pair of iron shoes, on fire, until she dies, in front of everybody on the wedding. And then you wonder why Germans don't have a sense of humor.
Ooh, we have a pocket. Skirt is pinned to the bodice, now right sides facing, and of course, it's time to sew. Ha ha ha! It's looking good. And now it's time to add the nightmarish zipper. Why did people invent zippers? Seriously. Ugh. Oh yeah, it's all finished but the hem, and I will do that now. And then it is time for the reveal. And Sushi is very tired.
This dress is so comfy to wear. It worked great with this cotton poplin because it was so freaking warm in Paris while we were there. And I know the interpretation of this Disney-bound piece is almost literal, but I like playing with the different patterns all at once. The sewing pattern was one of the easiest ones I handled so far, and the sizes were on point. I generally cut one size bigger than I have, and I remove what I don't need, but I cut the correct size by mistake, and even so, the changes I needed to do were minimal compared to other patterns I used before.
All upon all the animals.
I didn't face any issues at Disney with this dress, no weird stares from staff or requests for me to change or leave, so BAM! Disney approved, bitches! I just don't recommend standing next to this awful wheelie thing when you have a migraine like I did that day. Ugh. Which one do you like better, Belle or Snow White? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe if you like sewing shenanigans and crazy DIY projects. I post videos every week, and I'll see you soon. Bye!